Halloween time again. And if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know that that's Horror Month, which I've already done some H.P. Lovecraft. We're going to take a look at it from a different point of view, though.
And welcome back to the heart of the stories we tell. I'm Rob, the host, and this is another look deep into what makes a story, a theory on storytelling by a storyteller who believes that every story has merit. And tonight's episode is...
Character profile, the great old ones themselves, the ancient gods, the darkness. Let me just quickly say that this is part of a Halloween spookiness, so I hope that you understand that we're going to take a little dark and deep dive into what it means to be the horrifying thing that goes bump in the night, what it wants, what it needs, and the fact that it just doesn't give a poop about you. What this whole series of character profiles is normally about is what the character is about. But in cosmic horror, the monster is more of a plot device. So that makes it a little harder to actually pin down what they are and who they are and what they want. But that's okay, because we're going to try as we take a look at who are, why are, and what do they want. But of course, before we do that, if this is your first time here, what I do is I come up with silly theories on storytelling. It's all one big thought experiment about why and how we write stories. I also do reviews. If that sounds interesting to you, click the subscribe button and join us as we go into Horror Month with the horror that is Cthulhu himself. As I said last year during Halloween, monsters are all too real, because psychologically speaking, we are the monsters. But H.P. Lovecraft came up with something that I think, I'm not 100% sure he started it, but he at least made it most famous. The idea of some creatures, something so old, so powerful, that it's beyond our comprehension. And at the end of the day, that's one of those things that we can relate to on a level much closer than you would expect. Because I know what you're going to say. These monsters aren't real. Necronomicon isn't real. Maybe it is. No, just kidding. Alright, no, it's not. But these creatures tap into a primal fear. A fear of change. A fear of, oh shoot, I don't know what's going on anymore. And believe it or not, you know what story actually managed to do that really well? Yu-Gi-Oh! It took a concept as simple as a kid's card game and turned it into, oh, you thought that's all this was? Oh no! Let me introduce you to a whole world of things more powerful than you that could eat your soul and will make you shit yourself. So, what is a great old one? A great old one is one of those creatures from the mythos, and there's some debate, is Cthulhu one or is Cthulhu just a priest of one? And I'm going to leave that up to people way more versed in this stuff than I am. Because I don't need to worry about it. See, the whole idea of cosmic horror is that the world is so much more messed up than you thought. One of the quotes I heard, and I just recently got into an argument with a friend over, was H.P. Lovecraft wrote the worst day any atheist ever had, and then wrote it again, and again. And why is it the worst day an atheist ever had? Because he found out God was real. But not only was God real, but it didn't care about you. Maybe it even didn't like you. Now, my friend argued that wouldn't that be just as horrifying for someone who had faith? To which I, of course, counter-answered. Well, if you already have a faith, if you believe there is a powerful good being that you worship, finding out that there's an evil one or a malevolent one isn't as heartbreaking than if you honestly thought more secularly. If you really thought that there was nothing and then found out there was, but whatever it was horrifying, that would shake your core beliefs to the bone. And that's what cosmic horror does. In fact, I don't know why I didn't think those words up before. Shake your core beliefs to the bone. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be a monster. The monsters, or the way Lovecraft did it, and Daryl Schwartzer, who is a very famous Cthulhu editor and has written like everything you can imagine. Even has this funny joke that H.P. Lovecraft basically never looked at a bowl of fish without seeing a monster in it. But jokes aside about tentacles, you have to realize that part of it is that you can't fight against these things. And that's one of those things that I find so weird about modern versions of these stories. The Delta Green ensemble from the Call of Cthulhu and several movies and video games do this thing where you can fight Cthulhu. And it misses the point. The whole point is that this isn't something you can fight. This is something you can survive. This is something that is so powerful that it doesn't matter what it actually worships. So, I heard this other great analogy. Imagine one day you walked outside and there was an ant colony that found a way to communicate with you. And bam, it spelled out, "Help, we need food." And you looked down and yeah, you had to get to work and you had to do this, but you were kind of amused that it spelled out, "Help, I need food." So you're like, okay, here, I'll drop some crumbs for it. Now all the ants have just basically been like, hey, this all-powerful being up there, listen to us. You're the great old one in this analogy. And then, when one of them says something else, hey, I want you to make this other ant love me. You're like, well, I can't really do that. Well, I guess I could. Just kill all the other ants. And then that last ant is standing there with the ant it loves. Oh my god, what have I done? Because it realized that you didn't really care about the ants. You were just going and trying to go about your business. You were intrigued by this little thing that attracted you. Their drives are alien. Their drives are so beyond us. Another great moment comes from Babylon 5, where they had their own great old ones. And we never fully get into their minds. But there's an episode where Jakar says, do you see this ant? Yeah, back to the ant analogy, I know. If it goes back home and tells all of its other little ant friends what it saw, it would never understand. We're that far beyond them. And that's one of those reasons why things like Delta Green, and again, as you can see in the picture, Stargate, always kind of bug me, because you lose a bit of the cosmic horror when you can fight the cosmic horror. And that's actually something I'm going to be talking about coming up. But for this, I'm supposed to be telling you what they do want. And I want you to think about this. What do you want? What do you do? Why are you here? And you know what the truth of the matter is? You just want to get by in life. And so it doesn't really matter who they are. What they are is what matters. And what they are is infinitely beyond us. Steps so far ahead. And they couldn't care less about us, most of them, not the whole top notwithstanding. The true horror of it is that if you ever actually got a good look at them, you couldn't understand them any better than the ant could understand us. Try explaining to your dog why it is you have to work. Try explaining to your cat why it is it needs to get an injection. Even the smartest dog or cat really can't understand it, as much as we love them. And we're benevolent towards them. Imagine the deer you're hunting. So what do you think? What do you think about the idea of cosmic horror? And more importantly, did I explain it well enough with those analogies? I hope so, because I'm doing something a little different before we talk about like and shares. I'm going to be putting up on my Patreon account another video, one that talks about cosmic horror that's not too cosmic, and how we can use it for other stories. Now, I know what you're going to say. This is just a cheap ploy to get people to click on your Patreon. Yes, it totally is. But I'm going to be talking about other type of tentacles. We're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Some more. We're going to be talking about Lost, the Orville. But primarily what I want to talk about is how we can learn from cosmic horror to write better superheroes. And that's pretty important to some of us nowadays, isn't it? But of course, as always, whether you join my Patreon or not, like and share this video. And of course, click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Join our little community here. I'm going to be doing things like this a little more often because I'm dirt poor. And what I want to do is I want to take a deeper look, a deeper dive into how and why we tell stories. That sounds interesting. Join our community. Most of the content will always be free, but every once in a while I'm going to throw stuff up for Patreon supporters. I hope you have a good night, and thank you for walking with me through the heart of the stories we tell. And happy Halloween month. Wah-ha-ha.